All right, so I'm gonna treat this like I do work, only I'm gonna actually record instead. So yesterday I modeled out this door in 3D. The first iteration had morph targets and these doors could transform, but I ran into issues where they did not. Morph targets don't move or don't export in the FBX if it's not a skeletal mesh into Unreal. So I had to split the doors up left and right, because if I just had one version of this door, I would then have to flip this one around to get the thing to work, and then the textures would be messed up, so that's no fun. And then if you export these all from the same location, when you build them in Unreal, they'll be in the same location in the actor. So in here, we've got my door. So the first thing I did was I just put down the door frame, and then I put the doors in there and attempted to animate them, and then realized that I kind of wanted this whole thing to be like one giant piece. So I made a blueprint that has all the pieces in it. So if we scroll out here, it's got the collision box for the sensor for the door opening and closing. It has both doors in here. It has two UI widgets for the door itself, or for the label on the door. And then there's a hitbox for this alarm, or this bell that sounds when you walk through the door. If you're this height, that'll be important later probably. And then there's an interact hitbox here, because I wanna make it so the player has to unlock the store at the beginning of the day. So I thought that would be nice. So if we go into here and hit play, what ends up happening is right now this angry version of Jessica is in the bell. So that's what you hear when the thing first loads. So now I have a hitbox for opening the door. So when I walk in, it goes like that. And then if I go all the way into the store and through the bell rings. And then there would be an interact in here if it was, if I had any kind of interacting thing in here, which I don't. So then the challenge was getting this label to be passed in, because you can see here, this is the default text. But when I hit play, obviously that is not what you see, right? You see legit store. So I made a game instant object. This is going to be the thing that holds like all my variables for my my game. And because this permeates every level, this loads when the game loads. So here we've got a variable for store data, or store name. So this is the store name, and then I've got a get and a setter. It took me forever to figure out how to get the getter to work, because I don't know why I don't know why it was so hard. It'd have been so much easier had I just gone into C++, but I didn't want to go into the game instance and fight with it. And then we've got set store name. This is going to be new. So here's the variable for the store, right? You have ever seen, trust me, bro. So this right now does not have a limit, but if we compile here and hit save and then hit play, you'll see here now it gets bigger. So this will expand to the limits of the size of the door. They're set so they limit to how wide they can be, which was also a pain in the ass. So let's fill this up with some more text. So I'm using text wrapping essentially to get it to all fit. So if it overflows, it just goes and gets cut off at the bottom. Anything past that, or if it gets too wide, it'll just get cut off. Because what I didn't want was to have like a giant like square thing going on in there. So we're just gonna undo that real quick. So those settings took me like hours. So first, this getter, I was unclear how to get variables out of the game instance, right? So inside of here, we have the text widget here for this, right? So this is the text widget. So this size box sets how big the box is allowed to be, or its maximum size. But that only works if this thing, this widget controller here, this is a regular widget. This widget has a drawing size, and that drawing size affects like the way how big the text is in the block itself, and those are affected here. But if you want the size box to work, you have to click this box. If you don't click this box, it doesn't work. So if I hit play now, you'll see, well, you won't see anything for normal text, is no big deal, but you see how this is coming out now? This thing no longer respects its bounds. So if we did the same thing where we did earlier where it was huge, it would no longer respect its bounds and would go outside the door, and that's not, it's funny to look at, but it is not my intention. So we're just gonna set that back. So this forces the size, essentially, this size box does. This border allows for a background. Text area is just your text. They don't have background or anything. In here, you can set your text wrap. So the max size for this box is 220. So I set the default wrapping to be a bit lower. There's some padding in there you can put in there too. So then inside of this widget, to set the text from the game object, there's a link button up here, and you do create binding, and then you create a function, wherever that function lives. So you have to create a function. We name so this is your binder. We then need to cast to the game instance, and there isn't overhead on this. Well, too much. There's a minor bit if we keep casting, but it's not ticking, so it should be fine. But we could probably store this as a variable right here. So that we don't have to check it again. Which I might do. So, well, we can cast to this. Oh, we can do both of these. We can just make this a variable, so we don't have to keep doing it. But either way, so we do the binding. We need a game instance, and we got to tell it we're looking for the game instance. There can only ever be one, and you have to, like, the phone's in the way. I think the phone's just gonna always be in the way. In project settings, in your game instance, you can pick your game instance class, and by default, it's this thing right here. But I made my own game instance in my blueprints. And then eventually it'll be in C++ when I get there. Because basically it's just going to be a giant variable storage house. Because you can probably load your save from there too. Because the game instance persists between all levels. It exists when you hit play, and it stops existing when you hit stop. So it's basically your store. So we cast to it. And because this always exists, this being referenced in this is irrelevant. It's already in memory. It really doesn't matter. Then we use that function I just showed you to get the store name. We convert it to text, and then here you have to return a return node out of here, or this whole thing doesn't work. Even if you have nothing going on here, if this isn't plugged into this with something in the return, this bind just never happens, and it just does not compile. And it just won't do anything. I think that was it for discovery yesterday, which I spent 12 hours making a door, essentially, but it's the main door that goes into the store, so it's gonna it has to work every time, right? Like this can't, if we don't program it to fail, it shouldn't fail, right? So unless I set it to, so like right now it opens, but if it was set to locked, it would ignore this overlap and not, this animation wouldn't happen. Oh yeah, this animation, I gotta go over this animation. So if we go in here into the event graph, I've got 3 events going on. They're a little tangled. So in here, we do the bell thing. Come on. So this is the bell. All we do is get the bell sound that is right here. So this is just an overlap. And then we've got a custom sound that I edited down from somewhere. So then we've got this overlap, and then that plays, and that was that small box. That's that small box right there with the speaker in it. And then up here, this is our animation for our door. So we have an animation for the door opening and an animation for the door closing. And closing is just the opposite of this. So in this case, we can just plug it in here. And then a real nose to just play it backwards. This needs to be cleaned up. This one should go here, and this one should go here. There we go. This is for cleanliness purposes. I could have done the same thing here, I think. Either way, so now when you overlap the collision box for the door sensor, it then plays this animation, which is over here. And then basically this animation adjusts the x-axis. So over a second and a half, it goes from 0 to, I think it's 75. 75, yeah. And moves the doors with a slope like this. So it opens fast at the beginning and then goes slow to finish opening. And then when it goes in reverse, it slowly closes and then quickly closes on exit. So to do that for that second door, we just multiply times -1. So this is my multiply node. We multiply times -1 and it does the inverse of this. So where this one moves at positive 75, this now moves at negative 75. Yeah. And I'm going to clean up these nodes. This is definitely going to get moved into C++. I don't want this to fail. It's the same with the basically everything in this door is going to end up in C++, so will the game instance and anything else, and the controls probably. Just so I don't have to worry about them like coming loose somehow. I don't really know. I don't think blueprints come loose, but who fucking knows? All right, that's it for today, or for yesterday. I don't know what today brings, but that's 12 hours and 12 minutes, so